Hello, my name is Gholami. I'm a graduate of Master of Architecture from Islamic Azad University of Shiraz, and I'm finalist from Iran in the AYDA Awards. The name of my project is the Rebirth of a Wetland, a future built on the past. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, actually, my project started with this photo, a poster of the city of Abadan where I was born and raised. And I always wanted to see the city like this, the river by the side of the city, the refinery in the middle of the city, and the palm grove behind the city. But because I was born 20 years after the war, I always saw it as destroyed. In fact, Abadan, rather than a city, represent the connection between the river, refinery, and the city. It represented it represent the connection between the war and the city. But this is not just a personal concern. With the increasing number of wars, regional conflicts, and human crises in different parts of the world, the destruction of cities and the loss of historical and social structures has become a global concern more than ever. This is a map of countries at war last year, and in just the past few months, more than 15 countries have been added to the list. And the common points of all of these in the war-torn areas that remain the same for many years. So I decided to work on one of these war-torn areas. But where? A war-torn area inside the wetland. Wetlands are very important area from a lot of perspective. Each has their own unique identity, and there are many of them in Iran. Like ecologically, they are home to migratory birds and fish. Economically, they create a small-scale agriculture and fishing. Climatically, they are home to special plants and play an important role in water treatment. Culturally, they are the place where a small population live and work. But what is the relationship between a war zone and a wetland? When you look at the war zone in the region, there is a very special war zone, and it's located in the center of the Horolazim wetland, a commercial complex that was located before the Iran-Arab War for the land connection of the two countries, and was one of the first places to be damaged in the war due to its proximity to the border. A commercial complex with a simple plan that has advanced due to the construction of a dam around it. So the water of the wetland has risen, and now this complex is located in the middle of wetland. But what exactly are the possibilities for convergence for this space? For living, working, and having people in the wetland, there is the possibility of convergence of human. For a variety of nature, there is a possibility of convergence of nature. For the extent of industry and railway in the region, there is the possibility convergence of industry. And there is also a convergence of a space because of the destroyed buildings. And can also do this convergence in a sustainable way with the help of the sustainable development goal. But exactly what kind of architecture can help to converge these things and how? So we have a complex that used to be like this, but now it's destroyed as abandoned like this. For the design, we are going to look at the historical architecture of Iran. All these buildings with all their differences in their scale and their materials and their climates. Actually, use these 8 patterns. These patterns are actually the numbers of division and scales. Architects in the past would place these patterns next to each other and the dimension of land, and by placing them side by side. They would design houses, palaces, mosques, and in the middle of it, a center courtyard would appear, which is perhaps the most important symbol of Persian architecture. And I use these patterns for the design. The first space is the corridor, which is used for communication between spaces and has a radius of 1, 2, 3. The next space is the radius of 2, which are small scale spaces and are used as open and closed spaces. And they are useful for corners. The next space is the medium scale space, which has a radius of 3 to 3 or 3 to 4. And they are more useful for the room. The next space is the space with a radius of 5, which has a larger space than the others. These spaces are more useful for public spaces. The last space is the larger scale space, which is designed with a radius of 7 and is designed for gathering as open and closed spaces. The ceilings of the spaces are made of wooden beams in order to use local resources. And then spread these spaces among the destroyed section for 3 reasons. First, to preserve the remain of the destroyed walls, but not to protect the walls as before. The spaces are made of the remaining bricks of the destroyed walls in order to reuse the materials. And the rest of destroyed wall are covered with concrete. This is done because of the critical expression of the condition of the hundreds and hundreds of destroyed buildings that exist in the city and under the pretext of keeping the war-torn houses in the same condition all over the city. In fact, the new space is built with old materials and the old space is built with new materials, and the concrete part are used as benches and sitting areas. Second, to transfer the original form of the central courtyard. And the third reason, in addition to creating central courtyard design in the middle of few smaller yards around. In the next step, due to extreme heat in the southern part of Iran, need a canopy. If want to put a roof on their entire spaces, actually make a space very uniform. And if put a roof on each space separately, we will scatter the space a lot. So to not have a full roof or a few small roofs, the canopy are placed on the same small yards. For the canopy, we will go to more contemporary parts of Abadan architecture and use this type of roof, which can be seen in various uses of Abadan architecture. This roof can be made of iron and metal and create a contrast with the project itself. Or with a sustainability view, it can be covered with palm branches. But what exactly is the use of these spaces and what can be done with them? To answer this question, I thought about exactly which humans from the past, present, and future might use these spaces and what they might use them for. And I came to conclusion. First, each of these people is actually a human being who, when they were young, was a past human being and saw the war and lived through it. When they are middle-aged, they are a present human being and have experienced the post-war damage and grown up with it. When they are old, they will be a future human being and will indirectly feel the impact of the war on their living environment. Second, each of these humans belong to a generation of humans. The past humans are actually our fathers and mothers who saw the war and live in it. By By 2 days, a human, we mean ourselves, human who were probably born after the war but have experienced the post-war damage and grown up with it. But the future humans are about our children who will be born in the coming years, and after half a century of war, we probably feel its impact not directly in their lives, but indirectly on their living environment. So, in fact, these spaces don't have a specific use, and humans themselves must give these spaces a use and identity based on their needs. And this overall space for the main space of my project. But each space needs a series of micro spaces next to it so that they can complement each other and respond to more specific needs. To design these micro spaces, we will again look to our Iranian architecture, but back several centuries, and these architectures can still be seen in part of Iran. Chapars, a type of shelter or single room space that varies in shape, material, and construction depending on culture, climate, and texture. In these pictures, you can see some of these chapars that still exist, and they are mostly made of wood and plant fibers. I used the idea of these chapars for small spaces. Number one is a bird nest, a habitat for migratory birds. These small spaces are made with wood and iron. Number two is for fishing, a space for who earn their living through fishing and want to have a space near water and can fishing in the wetland. Number three is a parking. The wetland is a place for small boats to come and go, so they need a space to park and repair their boats. Number four is the market. Every area, when people come and go, needs a space to buy essential items. This space is more closed and there is the possibility of activity within it. Number five is the rest zone. Wetland is far from the city. People need a space to rest in the middle of the road. And with these types, can design a lot of spaces with different scales for different uses. And after that, divide them into the entire wetland. So this project can be defined in this diagram and can be read from both sides. We have two spaces, a war zone and a wetland. From the convergence of human, space, nature, and industry, with the help of things like historical concepts, local resources, architectural types, and sustainable development goals. We want to achieve the goals of crafting cultural legacies, the convergence of the past, present, and future, and environmental sustainability, like using local and recycled materials, creating extensive shade. Social sustainability, like participating residents in the regeneration process, and creating a space that have flexibility in use. And cultural sustainability, like reading historical architecture and combining it with contemporary language. Transforming the destroyed space into a platform for dialogue and experience. Ultimately, this project seeks to show a place how this destruction can be linked to life, darkness to light, and the past to the future. This project is not a buildings. It's a narrative, and a narrative of how a region can create a new and lasting legacy from its memory. And this was my project. Thanks you for your attention.